I eventually confessed that my siblings had sold it years earlier and had persuaded him that I'd wrecked it while driving drunk. Before I continue with what happened afterward, please do me a small favor. Subscribe and let me know the city or country you're watching from. I truly enjoy knowing how far our stories travel. The February rain pounded against the metal dumpster as I pushed myself further into the cardboard shelter I'd constructed. 3 months on the streets, 24 years old. This was not the life I'd imagined for myself. Jana? I looked up to see Uncle Eduardo's face. Rain poured down his dark skin, his eyes filled with shock. He clutched grocery bags, likely on his way to visit his daughter in the nearby apartments. He was the last person I wanted to witness me in this state. Uncle Eduardo? I whispered, my voice breaking. I hadn't spoken to anyone in days. He knelt down, his costly leather shoes splashing in the puddle. Baby girl, what happened? His tone was kind but bewildered. My stomach knotted. 3 years of carefully crafted lies by my siblings were on the verge of unraveling. I'd been guarding their secret, shielding them even as they ruined me. I crashed it, I repeated the familiar lie, tasting its bitterness. I was drunk. His face crumpled. Jana, no, you promised me you'd take care of it. The disappointment in his eyes wounded me more than any blade. Yet the real pain came from knowing the truth. I'd never consumed alcohol in my life. My brother Terrence and sister Diamond had sold the car 2 weeks after Uncle Eduardo gave it to me, pocketed $12,000, and fed him the drunk driving story. And I'd been too frightened to reveal it. He'll know. 3 years earlier, on my 21st birthday. This is really mine? I'd whispered, tracing my fingers over the silver Honda's hood. Uncle Eduardo stood beside me, beaming more broadly than I'd ever seen. All yours, baby girl. Titles in your name. He enveloped me in a hug that carried his signature cologne and cigar smoke. You start that medical assistant program next month. I'd cried genuine tears of gratitude. My older siblings, Terrence and Diamond, had stood on the porch of our grandmother's house, where we all still lived, their expressions unreadable. That night, Terrence cornered me in my room. Listen, baby sis, Diamond and I need to borrow the car for a few days. I hesitated, clutching the keys. Just a few days. His smile never reached his eyes. At 28, Terrence possessed that slick charm that had always extricated him from trouble. I handed over the keys. That was my first mistake. 2 weeks later, I returned home to find both of them gone. Grandma Cheryl sat at the kitchen table, her weathered face troubled. Your brother and sister left this morning, said they were moving to Atlanta. Panic gripped my chest. My phone buzzed, a text from Terrence. Had to sell the Honda, split the money with Diamond. Don't tell Uncle Eduardo. We already told him you crashed it drunk. Uncle Eduardo called the next day, his voice strained with anger. Jana, your brother just told me what happened. Uncle Ed? I'm so disappointed, he continued. I thought you were different from your siblings, responsible. The words devastated me. I opened my mouth to confess, but fear choked the truth. Terrence's threats echoed. We know people. I'm sorry, I whispered instead. That lie became a cancer, consuming everything. Uncle Eduardo grew distant. He'd always been the steady force in our broken family, a successful contractor who owned 3 properties and never missed a birthday or graduation. After the accident, his calls turned short and formal. No more Sunday dinners, no more fatherly guidance. I'd lost far more than a car. I'd lost the only parental figure I had left. The medical assistant program began without me. No transportation. I worked double shifts at the corner store, saving for a cheap vehicle, but Grandma Cheryl fell ill. Medical bills devoured my savings faster than I could earn them. She passed 18 months later. I was 22, alone, and sinking. The house went to Terrence as the eldest, though he never returned for it. Eventually, it was foreclosed. I couch-surfed with friends until those bonds frayed and snapped. Then came the streets. Uncle Eduardo, I said now, rain mingling with my tears. I need to tell you something. I didn't crash that car. I never drank a drop. He froze, grocery bags dangling forgotten in his hands. My voice strengthened, despite my trembling. They took the car 2 weeks after you gave it to me, sold it for $12,000, split the money, and left for Atlanta. The color drained from his face. No, Jana. The words burst out. Terrence threatened me. I was 21, Uncle Eduardo. I didn't know what to do. And then you were so disappointed. I thought if I told the truth, you'd believe I was lying to cover myself. I had no proof.
Uncle Eduardo set down his groceries deliberately, his jaw clenched as he processed. 3 years. His voice rose, gesturing at the dumpster. Living behind trash because of them. I nodded, speechless. He pulled out his phone, fingers typing swiftly. We're fixing this right now. First, you're coming home with me. Second, I'm calling your brother and sister. Uncle Eduardo's guest room smelled of fresh linen and hope. I sat on the bed's edge, freshly showered for the first time in weeks, wearing borrowed clothes from his daughter. Lori had moved out the previous year, but her room remained untouched. Downstairs, I heard his voice on the phone, sharp and unrelenting. Terrence, it's Eduardo. I crept to the top of the stairs, listening. Yeah, I found her behind a dumpster, starving and homeless. Silence. That's what I thought. I know what you did. Terrence's voice came faintly, defensive, indistinct words, but I recognized the tone, smooth, manipulative, weaving a new tale. I don't want to hear it, Uncle Eduardo roared. You stole from her, from me. That car was supposed to change her life, and you destroyed her for $12,000. You know what you are. You're exactly like your father. The line went dead. Uncle Eduardo stood in the foyer, breathing heavily. When he glanced up and saw me on the stairs, his expression softened. I descended slowly. He pulled me into a hug, and I finally shattered, sobbing into his shoulder as I had at 12 when I learned my mother had died. I've got you now, he murmured, and I swear to God they're going to answer for this. 2 days later, Diamond called. I stared at her name on Uncle Eduardo's phone screen, heart racing. Answer it, he urged, switching to speaker. I accepted the call. Diamond's voice was sugary, concerned. Oh my God, Terrence told me Uncle Eduardo found you. Are you okay? The word emerged sharp. Silence. Then her tone cooled. Look, I don't know what you told Uncle Eduardo, but the truth? I cut her off. You're lying on us now, Diamond's voice rose. After we kept your secret? Uncle Eduardo, she's playing you, she continued. She really did crash that car. I laughed bitterly. You sold my car, took the money, and disappeared. You have no proof, Diamond hissed. Uncle Eduardo took the phone. Diamond, I looked into it. Found the bill of sale. Terrence's signature is on it, dated 3 weeks after I bought that car. The silence lasted so long I thought she'd disconnected. I'm a contractor, baby girl. I know people who know people. His voice was steel. Now here's what's going to happen. Diamond laughed, sharp and cruel. The line went dead. Uncle Eduardo's daughter Lori arrived home that evening. At 26, she'd always been the accomplished cousin. Master's degree, solid job at a tech firm, her own condo. We'd been close as children, but distance and my shame had widened the gap. She dropped her purse and crossed the living room in 3 strides, enveloping me in a fierce hug. Dad told me everything. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, I mumbled into her shoulder. She pulled back, hands on my shoulders. The hell it's not your family. When Terrence and Diamond left, I should have asked more questions. Her eyes glistened. That night, the 3 of us gathered around Uncle Eduardo's dining table, planning. Lori, with her keen legal mind from business school, outlined options. They sold your car, told everyone you were a drunk, and left you to suffer, Lori summarized, voice tight with fury. That's calculated. What I don't understand, Uncle Eduardo said quietly, is why they targeted you. I'd pondered this for 3 years. Jealousy, I said at last. You chose me, bought me the car, believed in me enough to invest $15,000 in my future. So they destroyed you for it, Lori finished, jaw clenched. Uncle Eduardo reached across the table, squeezing my hand. They didn't destroy you, baby girl. Attorney Jennifer Washington's downtown office featured glass walls and polished wood. Uncle Eduardo had retained her, the city's top civil attorney, whose reputation spoke for itself. Miss Janae Davis, she said, shaking my hand firmly. I've reviewed your case. I asked. She smiled, sharp and assured. The dealership has records.
Your signature isn't on any paperwork. Terrence signed his own name, actually. She slid a document across the desk. He was wrong. The car was titled to you. Any sale required your notarized signature or a proper power of attorney. Hope surged in my chest for the first time in years. Here's what I recommend, Miss Washington continued. We file a civil suit for the full value of the car, $15,000, as that's what it was worth new, not what they sold it for, plus damages for the financial hardship you endured, lost wages, medical costs from homelessness, emotional distress. Uncle Eduardo nodded approvingly.
That's trickier. The statute of limitations is 5 years in the state, so we're still within it. But criminal charges require the DA's office, and they're selective. However, if we file the civil suit first and they refuse to settle, that gives the DA a clear pattern of behavior. I felt lightheaded. This was happening. Do it, I said. Miss Washington's smile broadened. Terrence peered at Uncle Eduardo's house 3 days after we filed the lawsuit. I watched from an upstairs window as he stepped out of a new Dodge Charger, metallic blue, chrome wheels, likely worth $30,000. My car money, I thought bitterly. Uncle Eduardo met him at the door. Terrence tried to push past, but Uncle Eduardo blocked him. At 62, my uncle remained sturdy from decades of construction work. That lawsuit is black, and you know it, Terrence's voice carried upward. She gave me permission to sell that car. Uncle Eduardo's laugh was harsh. Janae never touched drugs in her life. Unlike you, I know about your arrests, your record. I couldn't remain upstairs. I descended, and both men turned. Terrence's expression shifted. Surprise, then calculation. Jaina, baby sis, look at you. Uncle Eduardo taking good care of you now, huh? Good. He smiled that familiar, smooth smile. But you need to drop this lawsuit. My voice emerged stronger than I felt. You sold my car, Terrence. I gave you $3,000 of that money, he protested. His smile wavered. You're misremembering, the words erupted. Terrence's face hardened, the mask slipping. You really want to do this? Take me to court? Uncle Eduardo stepped between us, voice low and dangerous. Terrence's eyes stayed on me. I've got friends, people who owe me favors. Something inside me broke. 3 years of fear, of carrying his secrets, of protecting him while he ruined me, all crystallized into blazing anger. You're not my family, I said, voice steady. Family doesn't do what you did. Family doesn't leave their little sister homeless and scared. I stepped around Uncle Eduardo, facing Terrence directly. So do your worst. Call your friends. Make your threats. Terrence stared, seemingly stunned by the change. The frightened 21-year-old he'd manipulated was gone. This is a mistake, he said finally. No, Uncle Eduardo replied. Terrence departed, his Charger's tires screeching as he sped from the driveway. That night, my phone lit up with messages from unknown numbers, threats, vulgar insults, warnings to drop the lawsuit. I showed them to Miss Washington the next morning. Perfect, she said, smiling. Screenshot everything. This is harassment and witness intimidation. She paused, studying me. I'm scared, I admitted, but I'm more angry than scared now. Perfect sense, she replied. Anger is fuel. Diamond flew in from Atlanta 2 weeks later. Unlike Terrence, she arrived with gifts, a peace offering. She stood on Uncle Eduardo's porch clutching a designer purse in one hand and a Starbucks cup in the other, hair flawless, nails freshly manicured. Dira? She asked when I opened the door. Against my better judgment, I led her inside. Uncle Eduardo lingered nearby, watchful. We sat in the living room. Diamond placed the purse on the coffee table. This is for you, Louis Vuitton. Real, not fake. I didn't touch it. Dira? Her eyes filled with tears. Perfect, delicate tears that didn't ruin her makeup. I know we messed up. I know we hurt you. But you're my baby sister. The tears flowed harder. You don't understand what it was like. Terrence owed money to some dangerous people. We were going to pay you back. Grandma got sick a year after you left, I corrected. You had 12 months to come clean. Diamond's expression shifted subtly, tears drying. We gave you a place to live for years. The audacity left me breathless. The courthouse was cold and impersonal. I sat beside Miss Washington at the plaintiff's table, watching Terrence and Diamond enter with their lawyer, a nervous man in a poorly fitted suit who'd evidently taken the case for easy money.
The judge, Honorable Patricia Moore, examined the evidence with keen, intelligent eyes. Miss Washington presented everything methodically: the bill of sale bearing Terrence's signature, the title in my name, bank records showing the $11,500 deposit and split, text messages, and witness statements. Terrence's lawyer attempted to claim I'd given verbal permission. Miss Washington dismantled it swiftly. Your Honor, verbal permission does not constitute legal authorization for the sale of a titled vehicle. Furthermore, the defendants then deliberately deceived Mr. Diamond took the stand, makeup impeccable, voice quavering. I love my sister. Help, miss. You didn't ask. You didn't call. You didn't check on her once in 3 years. Diamond faltered. You. Their lawyer rose.
Sustained, Judge Moore said, but her expression spoke volumes. When I took the stand, I told the full truth. The fear, the lies I'd carried, the shame, the 3 months behind that dumpster, the medical assistant program I never attended, the life I'd lost. Judge Moore listened, face impassive. When I finished, she removed her glasses. I've heard enough. In the matter of Davis versus Davis, Judge Moore declared, I find in favor of the plaintiff. Diamond gasped. Terrence's face turned purple. Furthermore, the judge continued, I'm forwarding this case to the district attorney's office with a recommendation for criminal prosecution for theft by conversion and fraud. What you did to your sister was not just civil wrongdoing. I couldn't breathe, couldn't comprehend. Beside me, Miss Washington squeezed my hand. Outside the courthouse, Uncle Eduardo enveloped me in a crushing hug. Lori whooped, fist-pumping the air. Even strangers in the gallery congratulated me, people who'd heard my story and felt its injustice. Terrence and Diamond slunk away to their lawyer's car without looking back. 6 months later, I'm enrolled in that medical assistant program. Uncle Eduardo co-signed for a reliable used Honda, different model, but it runs perfectly. The criminal case is pending. The DA's office appears serious about prosecution. I still have nightmares about that dumpster, the cold, the fear. But I also have something new, my voice, my truth, my refusal to carry other secrets. Diamond sent a message last week through a mutual friend. Tell Jaina I'm sorry. Maybe someday I will. But today I'm driving to class in my car, living my life built on truth instead of lies. I'm 25 now, starting over, but this time on solid ground. Uncle Eduardo was right. They didn't destroy me. I'm stronger than both of them combined.